This guy was 52 years old at the time. And he said when I started to learn about that, for the first time in my life, I saw tomorrow. I had hoped that I would be alive tomorrow, because up to this point, I always figured I'd be dead tomorrow. And I've always sort of lived that hopeless life because it was out of control, and no one was helping me to understand what was going on until I came here. Because one of the things CenterPointe does is integrate mental health and substance together, not side by side, but lace it together so it is how it lives in our body. It's all addressing each other in their body: physical health, mental health, substance use, primary care issues, all those kinds of things are all talking to each other in our body. And so we try and address care in a way that's similar to that, integrated and holistic. And so anyway, he then, so he's telling his story and saying, you know, for the first time in my life, I saw tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm crying. I'm sitting there on the counter in this room crying at what he's saying, because it was gigantic. I mean, in life, right? That's life right there. And that guy was facing it.
Welcome back to another episode here on the Hart and Hustle Podcast. Today we have another great leader. And listen, we were offline already talking for the last 10 minutes. And I'm like, wait a minute, Topher. We have too much good stuff already talking about. Can we just start off with your rules, man? You had a conversation with your fellas yesterday. Tell us a little bit about it. And I want to know those rules, because I think they were really good rules that people should be listening to.
So the topic of conversation was, how do you take people who are really bright and kind of go-getters anyway, and then get them hooked into what they're really good at, so they launch. And I mean, these are 18-year-olds, and they're coming in and they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go. And how do we engage them? And so we were having that conversation. And so in the course of that, then I have several rules that I kind of think about in life, like that you ought to apply this as the background of your life, and that I've learned over time. And the first is to be happy. And so Dalai Lama, the wise man Dalai Lama, said he boiled it all down, said the purpose in life is to be happy. And so that conversation in and of itself could take an hour, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, first thing you need to do is figure out how to be happy in your world, because if you find happy, the rest will follow out of that. So first is to be happy. Second is to develop your brain. This computer up here is mind-boggling, so to speak, and we don't begin to tap it. So begin to tap it and develop it and help it do some work for you. So within your happy, you've got a great tool that's going. The third rule is find your rapture. So ancient religion talks about, in Sanskrit, talks about rapture, and which is a term I love, but you can use the word passion. It's the same kind of thing. But find that thing, and you'll know it when you find it. Everybody has one. Yeah. Find that thing that you go, oh, this is what I was born to do, kind of thing. And you know you're in your element. You're good in it. You know it. You get it. All those kinds of things.
And it don't feel like work. It doesn't feel like work.
No, right. It's fun. Right. Mm-hmm. So the fourth rule is do the hard work. So that is, understand what it is to be gritty, to dig. So if you've ever done an extremely challenging sport and you think I'm done, and then you dig another level deeper, that's the hard work. If you've had an intellectual challenge, work challenge, school challenge, whatever it is, and you've had to push and push and push and really understand what hard is, then you're doing the hard work. And that sculpts you, that iron on iron. And that's what helps sculpt and develop you. And then the fifth one is don't get in your own way. We all have terrible self-talk. We're our own worst critics. We're always our own worst enemy. And nobody is worse to us than we are, really.
I agree.
And so don't get in your own way. Free yourself up to take the rest of that and go. And if you do, it'll be fun. You'll be productive as you could imagine. Whatever vision you have, you'll go right by it because you have so much good energy propelling you in the direction that you choose. So those are 5 rules we talked about. How do you instill those 5 rules in an 18-year-old person coming into the university to start this whole thing in life and get them going? Anyway, and I kind of want to do that in my work setting too, I want people in my work setting to be in the element that they're best suited, and then they will do the best work. So.
And I think I love that conversation. One thing I love about the conversation that you have people to have the conversation with, because not a lot of times can you have those conversations with people, like-minded individuals. So everything you said, I think is dead on, but then also finding people that are not just yes men, people that I can actually relate to these conversations. And I think that's where people don't have, especially when you're in that CEO, when you're in that leader space, so many times you don't have that connection with someone to be so open. So I love that you were kind of open. And I would also kind of say it is very hard to get someone to think a little bit differently, especially at 18. But even when you're 30 something, 40 something, you've been comfortable for all those years. But I've seen great leaders like yourself that will take someone, kind of go into an organization, see that someone may not have the skills to do what they're doing at the best of their ability, but they're really good at something else. And a lot of times they are a little nervous, they're upset, but you hear it all the time, like, man, thank God that you put me here. I love it. I didn't even know I enjoyed this. And it all could also start with volunteering. Maybe go volunteer your time to just see, that creative idea that you have that maybe your job's not allowing you to go do. Do it at a nonprofit, whether it's social media, whether it, leading, whatever that may look like. There's nonprofits that need your assistance, which is why this is so good.
And that's my story.
Yeah, that's just so good.
Because when I got going in the world, I was in the space, the mental health and substance space that I am now. But then I thought, oh, that's not my future. And so I went to law school and then got out and practiced law for 8 years. Well, in the course of those 8 years, I was a partner in a law firm. I, was doing trial work and just all this stuff, but I wasn't happy at all. I mean, it was not a satisfying. I could not feel the fact that this was ringing my bell. Like, I'm just like, this doesn't do anything for me. And
what did that moment actually look like? I mean, you walked
well,
away
it was a
from
long moment. It was many years. And, and at some point, loyalty is important to me. And so at some point I said, okay, I got to hang with this. I got to stick with this. I got to really give it its all and try and make sure. And so, I gave myself 5 years. Well, 5 years, I wasn't happy and I was doing it. I was hitting all the markers in terms of partnership and money and all those things, but it wasn't satisfying to me. At the end of the day, I wasn't a happy guy. And so I sort of dug and I said, this is the space that I was in the mental health and substance volunteering, and even employed a little bit before law school. I said that was where I was happiest. And but I thought, there's no future in that for me. And then a job opened up and I thought, well, okay, I could do that job back at the little tiny company. I mean, we
Yeah.
were a $900,000 annual budget. Um, you know, and now that's 2.5 payrolls for me. That's not even a
Wow.
budget. That's 2 payrolls. Um, and so I left being a partner in a law firm and went to this because I said that is the place that resonated inside of me. And I thought, what am I doing? I'm leaving as a partner in a law firm. I'm recently divorced. I have 2 young kids. And I just thought, oh, what am I doing? But I said, I'll tell you what, I never look back.
Yeah.
I got
Those
into
are
it.
those moments, though. Those moments when you feel like that, you gotta keep going. You gotta
Right.
keep going.
That's when it takes the courage to follow the journey, and I tell that to people all the time. Be willing to take the journey and to listen to yourself and follow that. And I did, and that was 32 years ago. And then 7 years after I started, I became CEO. I've been CEO for 25 years, and I'm retiring in 8 weeks.
It's crazy.
Nine,
This is
9 weeks.
crazy talk, man. You're not retired. People say they retire and they'll get right back to what they're doing. Maybe at the volunteer level. You're not going anywhere, man.
Oh no, I will. I'll go, and because I've got thoughts about that, but also life is a huge piece, and my piece right now with my work and all that is about this big, and I get to do cool stuff, but life is so much bigger than that, and
Yeah,
so this is going to give me an opportunity to go discover the rest of the pie and
Topher,
have fun.
I got a question. Looking back, what did that big pivot actually teach you about how you define success?
Well, success is right here. That's easy. So back to my rules. Start with happy. If you're happy, then I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be, doing my career and being the CEO of a company. It can be whatever it is in life that resonates with you deeply, where you're just in it and you feel it and you're at home in it, and that's your sweet spot. And so very few things are fully explored with just being in happy. That's why I say develop your brain, do the hard work, those kinds of things, because that helps shape and develop and grow that in a way that can benefit you and oftentimes the rest of the world. So, but my moment in that law office was about, one, I don't care if your neighbor's fence is 2 feet too far over. And 2, I have to do something that makes me happy inside. And so going on that journey and sort of running into that again was the pivotal moment where I stepped out and again thought, what am I doing? But it was the best thing I ever did. And I sort of have developed my vision over time, but the wildest vision I've had, I sailed right by. And the projects I've done are way bigger than I ever imagined. And but I was willing to explore and take the journey, do the hard work, take the challenge, develop my brain, and stay in my happy. And as you said, it's not work. I mean, when I'm doing all this stuff, I'm in my element and just having fun doing all of it. And that's why I turned 70 in 9 weeks, and and that's why I've worked this long. In part is because I've had so many fun things to do and have gotten them all done. Now I'm actually just finishing the last project I sort of set out in my brain about I needed to do this. And so I'm just about to get done with that. And then and then I'll hand it over to the next team, because that's part of, in my work, that's part of what's important and in life, is going out on top. We all think of that in boxing, go out on top, or golf or whatever it is. And so this is that, where I've really done my stuff, but the next group is really ready to they are grabbing onto this. They're smart, they're dedicated, they feel it inside, and they're ready to go. And so I'm trying not to get in their way and let them experience their passion. They're all already very smart, all of them. And so to just let them go and me not be their impediment. So that's kind of what this is, the retirement's about. And why one of the reasons I'll disappear is I can't be their shadow. I have to let them explore and do their own thing. And I'm going to go do my own thing.
One thing that caught my attention earlier, you said, and it just came back to me, was you gave yourself a time frame. You said, I think it was in the law office, 5 years. How important is it for you to put a time frame? Because I did the same thing, right? I put a time frame, and if I can't do this, if I'm not happy here, I have to walk away, because it's so important. And I tell you why I walked away. It was already the 2-year mark. I was there a little later than the 2 years that I gave myself. I was already unhappy. And I caught myself just talking about it out at dinner. I was at Texas Roadhouse with my wife, and I'm talking about and venting about work. At that moment, I realized, and I'm driving an hour to work, so all that just added up, right? And it was a very hard decision. But I told myself, I'm doing this for 2 years. I asked myself, what was in it for me? What am I taking out? What's going to make me better? Can imagine you took a lot of things that made you better, right, as a leader. Yep. But how important was that for you to give yourself a time frame as you look back to it?
Well, it was important to me for my integrity. I said earlier that I have to feel like I gave it my all, and have that loyalty value fully explored. And then also, I think that converts over to my integrity. And so I just felt like that was necessary, but I was doing what you were doing. When you find yourself just talking about it randomly, then you're unhappy. You got to change things up a little bit. And so, but I felt like I really had to give it my all in order to feel good about making the switch. After all I'd invested, because I'd gone 3 years of law school, that cost money. I've been involved in this partnership in the law firm and all these things. And so I don't want to just drop it and walk away on a whim. I want to really give it its worth. And so that was why I sort of set the time frame. With my own career, I set a time frame too. I sort of calculate, I'm not kidding, this goes back probably 7 years or so, where I took on a giant project that took me that many years. And I then started thinking about, this is going to take a long time and I'll get done. Well, I'll just work till 70. That'll be like a year after I kind of get it done, and that'll let me do this other project, and then I'll be out. And so I've really had this calculated for a long time. I'm just getting to the end of it now. So
got it. I want to talk on your leadership skills, because you did walk into CenterPointe from a $3 million to an $18 million. That is no easy task. It goes show to your leadership and the work that you put in. But let's be real, growth isn't always sexy. What was that one holy crap moment that can we pull this off came into mind? Because a lot of times while you're doing something, whether you see it or not, you still have those moments. What did that look like, especially during scaling up?
Yeah. It's part of, So the project I did was a real estate development that I found a 53,000 square foot building that was not being used, and we developed it into an outpatient and residential apartments and a conference center and things like that. and it's one of 14 buildings that we operate, but
Wow.
it's the big one, and so it's now a 60,000 square foot building, and it's gorgeous, and we have a well-being garden, we call it, but it's really a park in the back that has an amphitheater and labyrinth and raised garden beds and talking circles, and so it's really, really a cool place. um, but that was the big, hairy, audacious, that was the biggest, hairy, audacious goal I've
Mhm.
ever taken on. And I wondered, did I just catch the car, kind of thing. um, because I knew I could get some, like we did low income housing tax credits for about half of it, but then the other half was going to be fundraising $13.5 million. Um, and we'd never done that. I'd always operated our business to stand on its own 2 feet and never really needed to do the capital. So all of a sudden, I'm going from not having done it to I'm going to raise $13.5 million, and I thought, oh my God, and but the timing was all perfect, actually, for that. And but it just took courage, frankly. And I mean, I don't sort of tout myself as the courageous guy, but here the community needed it, the organization needed it, and this building and the whole thing was possible. The question is, could I pull it off? And there were times where I went there by myself, and I thought,
Mhm.
oh, what did I get into? And then on the heels of those thoughts went, no, we're going to do this. I know the details on this. We can pull this off. And ultimately, the thing that really was gratifying out of it was, as I went to the community to raise the money, and in Lincoln, Nebraska, raising $13.5 million is a trick, because it's not a community that just pours out the millions,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so, but it was 2020, where we got going, and we're raising money in the front end of the COVID pandemic. Um, what was ended up being true that we worried about was bank accounts were actually flush. The investments were up, and so that helped. Everybody knew our data because, like last year we served 5,200 people, and 54% of those 5,200 check the box. I make $0 to $1,000 a year, so that means zero. So the population we serve is no money to low income. They know the work we do. We're all over the place in the communities, and so when I went out to the community, they said, "No, our bank accounts are flush. We believe in you and what you're doing in the community, and this is a great project. We're going to support it." And I had two people who doubled the amount they gave us from what I asked them for. So that,
Wow.
that was a really gratifying result of, I did the hard work up front. I knew in my heart that what we had here was a doable project. But every once in a while, my brain would go, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
and
Yep.
but it all was affirmed over and over and over. And so right now the building is all done. We have zero debt on the building, and we are fully operational. I mean, we have more and more
Wow.
people. Our outpatient services went up 18% last year alone, because more and more people are walking in the door needing help, and we do a great job helping people. So
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. You just mentioned that some folks come in, they're living on less than $1,000, could be zero in this case,
Yeah.
truly survival mode. What does care actually really even look like when someone's starting from rock bottom and coming into your organization
Yeah,
asking for help?
that's really an important question, because the answer is you meet them where they are. So care looks like whatever they need where they are. And so if they're on the ground in the community on a sidewalk or something like that, you get down on the ground with them and start talking to them and asking questions because it's about them and what they need. And so the care starts with them. It starts with meeting them where they are, and then you begin to build relationship and trust. So they'll begin to take steps with you, not big giant leaps, but little baby steps forward. In the first day, it may be, let's go get you something to eat and things like that. And so you just start that process. So we have 6 full-time people in Lincoln, Nebraska that do street outreach. So they're under the bridges, in the encampments, in the soup kitchens, in the libraries, all over the community, helping people who are in need. In fact, we have a pretty unique program, whereas if people in the community see somebody on the street, they can call 911 or the police non-emergency number and say, hey, I've got somebody over here on the sidewalk and they look like they need some help. And if there's not an obvious law violation or indication of violence, then the 911 dispatcher actually dispatches our team out to that person. So then we can meet them where they are. It sort of decriminalizes being on the street, which the person on the street appreciates. It saves the law enforcement 2 officers for about 1 hour's time. And so it's a win all the way around. So that's the beginning of the process. And then, as I said, then you take the baby steps forward. And then Maslow told us nobody gets better on the street. Food, shelter, clothing, basic needs. You got to take care of those things early on. And so we operate over 200 apartments in Lincoln, and some of them are right off the street into an apartment type place. So we get them shelter and we start getting them squared away and taken care of, and then continue those baby steps forward to help them begin to tackle some of the bigger issues, which often are mental health and substance use. So
You guys are doing amazing. Do you have a story that really still sticks with you? I know you have plenty of them, but one that comes to mind on someone that has really came at their lowest, but completely left a changed individual.
indeed, yeah, and for all those in the business, this person gave permission for me to tell the story while he was alive. He's deceased now, but so I'll call him Harry. And he showed up at our door with a garbage bag of everything he had in his life. He had a garbage bag with all his possessions. That was it. And he said, I just got off the bus from Ohio and they said I could get help here. Well, the reason that he came here was in the general vicinity were family members. And so they, for whatever reason, they put him on the bus. Sometimes we call that bus therapy for the city. We're just going to get him out of here, kind of thing, which isn't the right thing to do. But that's how he got to us, on the bus with a bag. So he said, yeah, that you could give us help. So we went down, we got him squared away. About a year and a half or so. It was about a year later. I'm in a residential program, and I'm just sitting in listening. And mind you, I had already been doing this for umpteen years. So I had a lot of experience. And so the group is going around and they're talking about why this place was important to him. And that guy said, I've been in treatment in 7 other states, and nobody ever told me that I had a mental health issue that was impacting my substance use. And as I started to learn about that, and this guy was 52 years old at the time, and he said when I started to learn about that for the first time in my life, I saw tomorrow. I had hoped that I would be alive tomorrow because up to this point, I always figured I'd be dead tomorrow. And I've always sort of lived that hopeless life because it was out of control and no one was helping me to understand what was going on until I came here. Because one of the things CenterPointe does is integrate mental health and substance together, not side by side, but lace it together so it is how it lives in our body. It's all addressing each other in their body: physical health, mental health, substance use, primary care issues, all those kinds of things are all talking to each other in our body. And so we try and address care in a way that's similar to that, integrated and holistic. And so anyway, he then, so he's telling his story and saying, you know, for the first time in my life, I saw tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm crying, I'm sitting there on the counter in this room crying at what he's saying, because it was gigantic. I mean, in life, right? That's life right there. And that guy was facing it. So then the cool thing was about 6 or 9 months later, I'm coming into the facility, this particular facility, and 2 guys are walking out. And I sort of looked at them. I didn't recognize them really, and said hi. And then one of them said, Topher. And I looked at him and I looked more closely at him, and it was Harry. And I said, Harry, oh my God, you're like the most beautiful man for 2 miles around. He had a suit on, an overcoat, scarf, had his hair done nice. And you know, the important thing is then I looked at him in the eye, and he had health in his eyes. He was vibrant and vital in his eyes. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I came back to the residential group to say thank you because they saved my life. He said, now I'm living in an apartment. I'm out looking for jobs. So the family that was in the area, well, they all had restraining orders against him because he was such a beast when he was using and had uncontrolled mental health issues and so on. So he said, I'm back with all my family, have relationship with them. I mean, it was as cool gets. And anyway, so then we talked for a little while, and he went on. So there's one lesson left in this, and that is about a year later, I didn't run into it. I think I saw him one other time, but other than that, I didn't run into him much. But about a year later, somebody came into my office and said, Topher, this is Friday afternoon late. And they said, I just learned that Harry went into hospice. And I said, hospice? What? And they said he went to the doc and he has stage 4 cancer and things are bad. And he went into hospice. And I said, oh man, I got to go see him on Monday is what I said. So that was my plan. So Monday comes, that guy who told me walks in my office first thing Monday morning and said, Harry died over the weekend. And I said, so not only did I feel sad for all that, but also do it when you can do it. You don't say Monday. You know, if it's Friday afternoon, I learned about it, I should have gone then. And so I've learned that lesson in life. Do it while you can do it. And but the thing I always think back on, and I know this was important to Harry, was he was so happy to be in recovery, and attaining the trappings of life that he wanted. And so that was a cool deal.
Yeah. No, he was happy, right? You go back to that one rule: be happy,
Oh,
and he was.
oh, you could see it
Helped
in
him
his
find
eyes.
happiness.
It was
Yeah.
in his eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Man, this is so good. I can't believe that we've been talking as long as we have. And I honestly had a whole bunch of questions, and this has just kind of been so improvised. You're actually receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award here soon.
yeah.
And congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
But what still keeps you up at night about the state of mental health care? That is so important to you. You've been talking about it you from the beginning.
Well, it right now in particular, where it talks about cutting Medicaid, and that ripples out not just to the people getting care, but jobs and community, and oh, it's a giant rock in the pond to make any cuts to Medicaid. Anyway, the thing that is the fragility of it, because I see so many people getting help that they couldn't get help before. They haven't been to a primary care person for their whole life, and Harry's a great example. Harry had not been to one. Finally, when he went to one, because he was having some issues, they said, "You've got stage 4 cancer." So we've got to address those kinds of things early on, and Medicaid is what helps that. So now, different than all the years I've done it up until about 2 or 3 years ago, is that the finances are such that I have to raise money every single month and each year just to make ends meet, so we don't go broke. I mean, we used to be able to clear a 2 or 3% margin on top, and now we're right at zero. And so everything we're bringing in of $18 million, we're spending for staffing and just all the complexity of operating a big business. I probably have a dozen IT platforms we operate off of for all the different needs. Because if you're going to be in high level business, you've got to have all the equipment, right? And so just to have all that costs money. And so it's tight. It is super tight. And it's not just CenterPointe. It's all the organizations like ours. It's hospitals. I know the critical access hospitals in Nebraska are all either at zero or underwater. And that's lifelines for communities. So I worry about the healthcare system as a whole, and that what we're doing is squeezing it for money, really. And what we need to do is set up the priority of healthcare being an entitlement for everybody, where you get your healthcare. We want you healthy. And one of our taglines is healthy minds and bodies, strong communities. If you have people who have healthy brains and healthy bodies, you're going to have a vital, strong community. And so we are at a point now that is as challenging as any point I've seen in 32 years, and which says a lot. Like I said, I've had some pretty thin months on making the whole thing work, but I always made the whole thing work. And now we're having to go out and raise money to make the whole thing work. And the funders who normally said, we don't give operational dollars, we give capital dollars or program dollars, we don't give money to operations. That tune has changed across the board. Now organizations are giving operations dollars because they understand how pressed everybody is. So, it really it raises the question for all of us, which is, how important is our healthcare in our society? What's our policy as a society about being healthy and vital, so we can go to school, so we can do the work, just be with family, do all the things, do podcasts. You got to be healthy to do it. And so I think it's really raising that question for us. And there are big forces behind keeping it the way it is. But I think we need to start pressing on what the questions are. So
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of organizations, right? Just the cuts that are happening and everyone feeling it and being kind of, as you mentioned, tapped, and what that really is going to look like. You know, you're cutting a lot of these funds, and then people got to go back to where they kind of started at, which is not good, because now you talk about Harry. He's going to start to think, or people going to start to think, they don't believe in us. We don't have this opportunity, when there's organizations that want but just can't afford at the moment because of the government cut. So I
Right.
definitely hear you. I think another thing that I hear is that, and then I hear that there's a shift in the healthcare space when it comes to AI, and how that's actually at least alleviating a couple of different things for different people. Yeah, there's might be cuts within organizations because we can't fund a someone's salary, but how do we help those that are staying with us and making their jobs easier? Are you guys implementing AI? Is that something that you guys even thought of as you're on your way out?
Yeah, so we've got one toe in the water, but there again, with some things, like when you're just drafting documents or things like that, you can use AI to give you a base document, and then, well, for instance, we had a report due, and it was like 38 pages, and the report, and the people came back and said, "Oh no, we need." On the front end, we need an executive summary of this. And we thought, oh my God, we've got to take 38 pages and write now an executive summary that does it all. Well, we loaded it into Chat GPT,
There you
and I'm
go.
not kidding, in 3 seconds, boom. And not
Good
only
job,
was it, we
ChatGPT.
read through it, it was perfect.
Yeah.
And not only that, it was laid out nice, bullet pointed and all the stuff. It's amazing. The other thing it does is, so like in a therapy session, then if you have the record on, the AI then will listen to the therapy session and write the note. And then what the therapist does is go back and what some places do, and we like to do, is have it be collaborative. So you actually take both the
Mhm.
therapist and the person in therapy, and you both look at it to say, is this what you think we talked about? Yep. And you both sign off on it. Then it's very collaborative in
Yep.
that.
I like
But
that.
it not only kind of goes through the gist of what the conversation is, but it also knows then what the assessment was, what the treatment plan is. And then in Medicaid, for instance, they call it the golden thread, that you have
Mhm.
to follow those elements. So you can't just go talk about rebuilding cars in your session if that's not in your assessment and your plan and all those things. And so AI attract. So it's a
That's
marvelous
good.
tool in those ways, but that costs money
Yeah,
to
it
do
does.
stuff like that. So it's that kind of bind, and we've looked at those things, but right now we just don't have the money to do it. I love the idea.
Mhm.
It would make the workload different for therapists, that they'd be able to really focus more on therapy, see more people,
Mhm.
and then just check their work. You always got to check it. It's sort of like, when you're out with maps in your car, uh, and if it goes turn left and you go, there is not a left turn there. So you gotta backseat drive it a little bit, but it really is a time saver and a help, and the possibilities are unreal. Yeah.
Topher, we're coming to an end here, man. After June 30th, for the first time in 30 years, there's no calendar, there's no board meetings. What is that really doing for your spirit right now?
Oh, I'm excited, because you know why? Because I'm going to have a big party, so there's that, and
Good old
then
party. Never wrong with that. What a good party.
and then I'm going to have another party right afterwards, because a friend of our son, who is like a kind of a son to us, he's getting married, and we love him and we love the woman he's marrying. So that'll be fun. And then the very next day is July 4th, and we always have a party on July 4th.
Oh, you're partying up.
And then on the 5th, my son is getting married, so we're having a shower for him and his fiance, and then about 4 days later, I take off on about a month long tour of the. I'm going all the way up to Seattle, and then I'll drop down to LA, Palm Springs, Phoenix, New Mexico, and
I
Colorado,
love it.
and home. So,
Yes.
and then I'm going to go to the UCLA Nebraska football game out at UCLA, and
You're
so
ready, man. You're
I've
ready.
got it. So and that's just the first 6 months.
I love it. I can't wait to hear the stories on all the things that you've done.
And
Where can
and
people
I
find
guess I'm going
more?
to have to stop by and see you on one of my other car tours.
Yeah, let me know, man. Let me know. This is gonna be great. Where can people find more about the organization, more about yourself? Is it website? What is the website? Social media? What does that look like?
Yeah. So CenterPointe is the organization, and it's like it sounds, except there's an E on the end of point. And so CenterPointe in Lincoln, Nebraska, you'll find a bunch of CenterPoints, but we're a treatment program in Lincoln, Nebraska, centerpointe.org. And that's the, where you can see about co-occurring whole health care, and all the philosophical approaches that we take with our model of care, harm reduction. We're really on the front edge of what's going on in this space. So that me, I don't know. Google
LinkedIn.
me, Topher Hansen.
Google me. So we're now set to the blind question here, man. And actually, I always go through different leaders and just pick questions, but I felt like this question almost was meant for you after this conversation.
Okay.
What are you doing to take care of yourself so you can be available for others? And this was from Debbie, another leader, but I thought it was a good question for yourself.
Oh, I got this.
I know you do.
So I live about 95+% of my time in happy. And I always enjoy, like, I love this, what we're doing. I live in happy. And so that frees me up to be available for other people. And so one of the things I'll do is go out, and when I go get a cup of coffee, I'll buy coffee for somebody. I don't know them. I'll just buy, like, I'll jump to the person in front or the person behind and say, let me buy you whatever you're getting. And then I meet them and talk to them. It's a great injection of energy to me, to them. It changes what you're doing. And so I try to practice being happy and living intentionally that way. I'll give, for your listeners, a great reference. Laurie Santos, who's a professor at Yale, has two things. She has a course on the internet on the Coursera learning platform. So if you just Google the science of well-being, Laurie Santos, you'll come into it. And she also does a podcast called The Happiness Lab. So Laurie does a great job in helping people understand what happiness is about, how not to torture your brain, how not to, like, go into those negative moments, false references, anticipation, all those things, and how to intentionally live in a more positive, happy way. And so I have, and I've read books on happiness, and I've kind of dug into it, and so then I practice it. And I'm telling you, very little of my life is in not happy. And so when you do that, as you kind of said, it makes you available to others to be a person to be helpful. And so who are we to second guess Dalai Lama? The purpose in life is to be happy. A friend of mine said, Topher, it is not. It's to be there for your community. It's to do good deeds. And he had about half a dozen things. And I said, yeah, but Gary, when you're done doing that, what are you?
Yeah.
And he went, I'm happy.
Topher, I ask you, what is the blind question that you have for the next leader? I can only imagine it's going to be a great blind question for the next one. But what is your question?
Well, my question, I have several, as you might imagine, but are you happy is the first one. And then for a leader, I think one of the things you have to do is sort of feel your environment and what you're doing, and develop a big, hairy, audacious goal. If you've got, or a BHAG, right? If you've got a BHAG, then you're out on the horizon, and you're leading. If all you know is operations, then you're probably just looking at your toes. And if you're a chief operating officer, that's exactly what you ought to be doing. But if you're the CEO and the vision of your organization, your eyes need to be on the horizon for adverse things coming, for opportunities, for development, for a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal.
Topher, thank you so much for your time here. Guys, if you guys are still watching, make sure you guys do like, subscribe, and comment. This has been an amazing conversation with another leader, and congrats on all the years of success. I know success doesn't always look pretty, but you've made it to the other side where you're now retiring. Congratulations for all the work you've done in your community, and really touching others. A lot of times you do things and you don't even kind of get it back, and that's not what we do it for. So I can imagine there's a lot of people that just kind of thank you, and I would just say thank you on their behalf. But we appreciate you here on the Hart and Hustle podcast as well. And
Efrain, you're a champ, man. Thank you for that. Man, I just want you to know I'm trying to look pretty.
Guys, thank you guys so much. It's been the Hart and Hustle podcast. Efrain, Topher. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.
Thanks.